The base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Monday. It's an overreaction Monday. It's been a while since we've had one of those. MLS's back tournament rolling on. You had a wild match this morning. We'll get into it. Wild match last night. We'll get into that. We'll get into a lot of Atlanta United's 1-0 loss to the New York Red Bulls. I know there's a lot of reactions to get to there. You want to join the conversation? You tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. You watch on Twitch, twitch.tv/Soccer Down Here. You can even email us, soccerdownhere@gmail.com, to let us know what you thought about Atlanta's match, about the MLS tournament, about the NWSL tournament. You want to yell about financial fair play in Manchester City, have at it. You want to yell about 5 substitutions and that continuing? Sure. You want to yell about hydration breaks? Sure. All kinds of stuff on the docket today. Let's get caught up real quick before we jump into all the Atlanta and Red Bulls talk, because I'm sure that's going to dominate the conversation this morning. Let's get caught up on the tournament since we left it on Saturday night. By the time I got home, Columbus had blown Cincinnati out 4-0. Cincinnati had like a good 15 minutes, and then Lucas Zelarayan with a free kick off the inside of the post, and Cincinnati was pretty poor after that. Minnesota with a big comeback last night. They win 2-1. Real Salt Lake, a little surprising. I thought Colorado would show more in the nightcap last night. RSL wins 2-0. Game that was supposed to be yesterday morning, pushed back to this morning because of a presumed positive that later tested negative and an inconclusive that tested negative. Toronto coasted out to a 2-0 lead, a horrible defensive mistake from DC, got it to 2-0, then a red card right before the half. You would have been forgiven for walking away and making some lunch or making some copies wherever you're at, whatever you're doing. You come back and you see, first, a great goal from Higuain in his DC debut to cut it to 2-1. Then you see those 2 defenders who were so bad in giving up Toronto's second goal equalizing with set piece, header back across, header finds the back of the net. Bill Hamid with a big save at the end to keep it 2-2. And then some extracurricular fireworks, as Alejandro Moreno and Adrian Healy were talking about. Bill Hamid was probably talking a lot, maybe one of the reasons why we had more dump buttons hit in this match than has ever been hit in any kind of live event that I've ever seen.
Yep.
Bill Hamid would trash talk a room of stuffed animals, so he gets back from 2-0 down. Oh, he's going to be talking. And then he makes that save at the end. He's going to be talking some more. So, yeah, that was interesting. And I would not be surprised if some of yesterday's stuff carried over into today, because there were some salty tweets from DC United and from players about how things went down yesterday. So 2-2 is how it finishes. Toronto has to feel pretty bad about giving up points, and DC, they had no business getting anything out of it, and they did. So I'd love to hear what people had to say about that, because I know a lot of people were watching this morning.
Yeah, we do have some of that on the timeline this morning. We do have some stuff going back to Atlanta United and Red Bulls. We have some stuff from the weekend in general. But the first comment goes to the Airborne DJ, having to do with the match that just finished.
Mm-hmm.
TFC, followed by 4 question marks. Just ellipses. How? Question mark in all caps. Was watching casually, then turned it off around the 60th, thinking it was over. Wow, that's crazy.
They quit playing. And it can turn that fast sometimes. I mean, when you downshift, and Toronto obviously downshifted into another gear here just to see this thing out, and then all it takes sometimes is an amazing goal like you saw from Higuain that gives DC that boost. It's really hard to go from up here and then downshift and then try to get back to that gear. It's almost impossible. Toronto should have finished the game out. They got stuck in this in-between. I mean, I was like Tom. At after halftime, I was kind of walking around, getting stuff ready, looking at some other things. And I looked up and I saw Toronto for a while focused on possession, just working the ball around. DC was sitting back, pretty much seeing the game out. They made a bunch of subs. Okay. Then Toronto got into this weird, like they're taking some, ill-advised shots. They're conceding the possession when they don't need to. Just, it's like they switched off mentally as well as downshifting in their work rate, and they fell apart. And the sequence, the Higuain finish is exquisite, but yep. Laurent Simon, bruh, what you doing? Like,
bruh.
He has not been the same player since he left LAFC.
Yeah.
He went to Europe, came back, and he'll have a good performance followed by two just mind-blowingly bad ones. And you can't trust him at this point. You can't bring him into that situation. And Toronto did something that you rarely see, and it came back to bite them. You don't change your center backs. If you're playing three, it's different. You can change one. That's okay. If you're playing two, you don't change your center backs. Injury is the only reason you change your center backs. That's it. You don't do it. And Toronto did it, and everything was different after that. And you can put them at fault for the first goal for sure. And it's embarrassing from Toronto. Greg Vanney had to be lightened into his team afterwards. You have to, because they gave up points here where you just can't.
Tafka says Toronto just gave up a 2-0 lead while having been a man up for over half the match. That is gut-wrenching, and yet they'll inevitably receive less condemnation than Atlanta for their 1-0 loss.
Oh, I'm sure, because it is what it is. It's how these things go. Toronto's falling apart. Kansas City yesterday was bad, but there was a red card that factored into it. Toronto's is inexplicable. There's no justification you can find for this result happening. Possession, 66% for Toronto, 18 shots. DC had 8. You passed at 90%. You controlled the game. You dominated the game, and there's no reason to let that up. Even after the goal from Higuain, you can't fall apart that way. You're supposed to be a stronger team mentally. And when you pulled Mavinga, you pulled Gonzalez, you brought on Simon, you brought on Zavaleta, it fell apart. Nobody else picked the team up to fix it. And now Toronto, you got a lot of questions, because this was the game that they should have felt very, very comfortable with at halftime. They blew it. There's just no way around it.
Open Atlanta at Open ATL is not sure about morning games. Don't know if it's me or the players. Somebody needs coffee in Danish or pastelitos.
I wonder when that was sent, because the second half did not need any extra coffee once you got to the end of it. Felipe didn't need any extra coffee. Should have been red carded. That was an awful tackle. Junior Moreno needed decaf because he should have been sent off 15, 20 minutes before he was sent off for multiple yellows. It had a little bit of spice to it, so I'm okay. They're all different. Some of the later games have been the same. It's like, that's what a tournament is, though. We see it in any tournament like this. You see it in a World Cup where you have an early kickoff, even locally where the World Cup's being held. You have an 11 a.m. or a noon kickoff, and sometimes it comes out flat. Sometimes it doesn't. You have a late kickoff. Sometimes it's flat. Sometimes it isn't. It's just a tournament. That's how they go. Every game's different.
And we have a lot of folks who want to get into Atlanta United and Red Bulls. That's the last comment that we have about this morning so far.
Okay, and if you guys have more, we'll get into it as we go. The big news outside of MLS was the announcement from the Court for Arbitration of Sport that Manchester City should not be banned from the UEFA Champions League, and UEFA is following the guidance from CAS. So, John, you want to pat CAS on the back since you always hate them so much?
Here, CAS, I'm patting you on the back.
There we go. A lot of technicalities, which was really the only way this thing was going to get done. Mm-hmm. A lot of questions about financial fair play going forward, but they were already there to begin with. Manchester City got off on a technicality. There's no way around it.
Yep.
I don't. It's different if UEFA let them off the hook. CAS let them off the hook. So the idea is about like, well, UEFA is going to do this because of the financial implications. They want Manchester City in, et cetera, et cetera. It's not the way this played out. CAS is going to look at it strictly from a paperwork standpoint, and there were some things in it that were used to get to the conclusion that UEFA did that were time barred. It's a technicality, but it's legit. It's accurate. There was some talk about the emails that had been hacked, and those should not be allowed. They were allowed, so that didn't come into play. And now things are a little different in the Premier League because the talk about the fifth-place team getting into the Champions League, not anymore. So Manchester City will be able to keep up with what they've been doing, and I don't think they're going to sit back and go away now. I think they're going to push even harder to get back to where they were. They got the number 2 spot locked, so it's Chelsea in the 3rd spot on 60 points. It's Leicester on 59 and just collapsing. Yeah. And it's Manchester United with a game in hand today on 58. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's got to be feeling pretty good about himself these days. And now that 5th place spot doesn't help him. He's got to get into 4th. And Leicester has not looked good since the turn of the calendar, and they've looked really bad since the return to play.
Yeah, the match yesterday was just against Bournemouth at Vitality, and I know that home field really hasn't meant a whole lot, but Bournemouth has not been very good this year, period. End of sentence.
They're in 18th.
Exclamation. So they're awful.
Yes.
They have been hideous.
That would be accurate.
And so you go in, and if I remember the Juicebox Purveyor number correctly, I want to say that Leicester was a minus 223 to win yesterday. And there was a stretch of a minute 40 where you had 2 goals on the board, and it just went downhill from there. And Soyuncu kicks Callum Wilson while they're both in the net after a goal has been scored. Soyuncu gets a red. Leicester has to play with 10. It doesn't get any better. And I'm trying to remember the last time that the phrase Dominic Solanke is sitting on a hat trick. I can't remember that ever being said. So that's where it was yesterday with Bournemouth. And Bournemouth really needed the win. They are still 3 points out of trouble. 3 points behind West Ham and Watford, and they need some help in goal difference to get out of the relegation fight. They are 1 point ahead of Aston Villa, who is in 19th with 30 points. But yesterday, Leicester has just not been good since a long time, and this is just fading at the worst possible time for them.
So here's where you are in the table. After the game in hand today, there will be 3 matches left. 1 and 2 locked. Chelsea on 60 doesn't have it guaranteed. Leicester's 1 point behind them. They're in a Champions League spot. They might not be by the end of the day. Manchester United, game in hand today, they're on 58. Wolves on 55 is not out of it with 9 points left in play. Sheffield United not out of it with 54 points. So they are 5 points out of that last spot right now, and we see where they are at the end of the day after we see what Manchester United does. Tottenham is mathematically not out of it, but they might be by the end of the day if I do math. No, they won't be by the end of the day, but they're pretty much out of it in terms of Champions League. On the other end of the table, the relegation battle, Norwich, adios, sorry, Canaries. Aston Villa in 19th on 30. Bournemouth on 31 in the final spot in 18th. 3 points up to Watford and West Ham on 34. Brighton's on 36. Brighton looked like they were going to be fine, and it slowed down a little bit. They should be okay, but we will see. And Crystal Palace is officially safe on where you're at. So that's what's left in play. We're not going to get into Europa League spots because have fun with that. You guys figure that out for yourselves. Yeah. Let's get into the Twitch comments before we jump into Atlanta and Red Bulls. Domer tells us that the MLS logo is off-center with the center line. The logo on the board behind the field? I didn't notice it. Now I need to, and I'm going to be obsessed with it. So thanks, Domer, I guess.
I've been obsessed with the notion that the Adidas logo is now smaller than it was initially.
I will tell you, I do not even notice the thing. I
don't care.
I literally, after the match with Red Bulls on Saturday, when we were doing the post-game show and had the Columbus-Cincinnati match up on my laptop, and I saw it again, I had to ask Mike, was that up for the Atlanta match? Because I didn't even notice it calling the game. Didn't even think about it. Adam from 816, our Sporting Kansas City fan, says Toronto's making him feel better about himself. That would be definitely true after last night's ridiculousness. I do want to get into that Tim Melia red card, and we'll get there at some point before we're done. Yep. Atlanta Phoenix said, I really enjoyed the Minnesota Sporting Kansas City game last night and this morning's Toronto DC game. Minnesota looks like a good contender. Toronto better watch out or they'll be heading home early. I don't think they will, but this was a big wake-up call, and we'll see how they respond to it. I thought Minnesota might slip after Ike Opara wasn't able to play. And then when Luis Amarilla tweaked a groin in the warm-up, I was like, nah, Sporting Kansas City all the way. I still think Sporting Kansas City's a favorite in this tournament, but it's a huge wake-up call for them too. And we see how they respond without Tim Melia in game number 2. Didn't like that red card at all. I did not like it, and we'll break it down a little bit in terms of the particulars because I've seen some incorrect information in how you decide on it, and it's an interpretation. It's a judgment call. I thought VAR was going to come back and overrule it, or at least have him take another look, but didn't happen. It's a bang bang play. It's a tough one, and I'm a little surprised they went red on it. The Colonel says, resurrect the 2-0 is the most dangerous scoreline narrative. I tell you every time. I tell you. Toronto this time. I mean, you get the 2-0 lead and you stop playing. Yeah, well, we're going to remember this one for a while. That's what happens. We'll see how many other 2-0 leads. I think Columbus's 2-0 lead was okay. Just saying. Yeah. It happens. Adam from 816. Minnesota is bad with their players missing. Sporting was horrendous in the box. Game should have been over 15 minutes in. Totally agree. Sporting had to put that to bed in the first half. They dominated it. They needed more to show for it, and they didn't get enough. That's what this tournament's turning into for a lot of teams. Atlanta falls into that boat. Toronto probably should have put this game away earlier. Yeah. Finishing. Even Toronto with 2 goals, they should have had more. Finishing is lacking in this tournament. And, outside of Gyasi Zardes, because Gyasi Zardes looked really good, it's a difficult thing because that match sharpness is not there. And those moments are where it shows up the most, in my opinion. Tesco said, one of my friends called it Manchester City's best defensive performance this year. Maybe I should hire those lawyers to play on the back line. I don't know.
As long as Gundogan is not one of your lawyers, the answer to that is yes.
Yeah. Domer not happy about his Chelsea team. Says they hadn't looked good since the restart either. They've looked better than Leicester. I think that's fair enough, at least.
Yes.
But most teams in the world have looked better than Leicester since the restart. So we'll see. All right, let's get into Atlanta and Red Bulls. What did you think? I haven't talked to you about it yet, so what were your thoughts on the match? I'm sure you have a legal pad somewhere with notes that none of us can read but you.
Well, I have multiple legal pads going.
Multiple? No, I'm talking just about the Atlanta Red Bulls game. I hope you didn't write multiple legal pads on it.
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's in listening to you and Mike and watching, so I will stipulate that I had the game with your audio and Mike synced up. It took me a little while.
I was about to say, were you able to sync it up?
It took me a while because when I started, I ended up going the wrong way, and instead of being 30 seconds off, I was 50 seconds off. And so then I had to hit pause and think and go through commercials and sync it back up at halftime. And then at halftime, I was 10 seconds off, but then I finally figured it out. So second half, I had it synced, and you guys were great. I also had the twos match on a laptop in the den, so I had both matches going with your audio. I thought that there were some opportunities that Atlanta United had that the crossbar didn't cooperate with, and so for me, there were chances. There were converted. There was the one Castro chance in the box where he ends up clicking the ball off of his own foot. For me, I looked at the back line, and it was the first time that they had played together in game state. The first goal that Red Bull scored, the goal that was scored 4 minutes in, looked like everyone was drawn to this side. Fantastic pass to get it to Velo, and Velo puts it in the net, but it looked like there was some miscommunication at the back and trying to track coming the other way. I thought that Atlanta United grew into the match. I thought that they had found ways over the top. George Bello looked fantastic on the left-hand side in creating havoc with his speed, but just came down to not getting those opportunities into the back of the net, and that one goal early seemed to be the difference.
Yeah. Out of sync at times, not totally. I think some of the conversation afterwards has been overly harsh, but you didn't get the result. There's not. It's not one of those where, in my opinion, like, you know, we should really look back and say, like, they deserve to win. I think a draw would have been an accurate one here because of those sloppy moments, and they were defensively. And you mentioned it. It was the first time we'd seen Robinson, Meza, and Escobar together, and at the very beginning, it was so loose with the positioning with those three. Mm-hmm. And that was a big part of the goal, and I wanted to kind of talk through it a little bit here. It didn't just start with the ball from Kaku, and the ball is ridiculous. It's an outstanding ball from Kaku to split everybody. You have to give him credit for that. But the ball, the whole sequence started with the Red Bulls gaining possession. I mean, I'm looking at it now, about 25 yards from their goal up against the touchline. And they played, actually, I think they played a ball up the touchline from the corner. So they played out of trouble. When that first ball's played up the line, and I'm looking at it as to who it wasn't Pondant who played it. I think it might have been Aaron Long in the corner. Played it up the line. Franco Escobar is defending 30 yards from Red Bull's goal, and he's the right center back. He had continued forward on the previous play, but he gets caught here. This is where those moments of not having games will hurt you, because you're going to get out of position sometimes. That's fine. You're going to have plays like this where when the ball's trapped in the corner in the 4th minute, was it a good idea to stay up so high in that moment where you had to? I mean, it was 2-on-2. Mo Adams was there and could slow down the advance on that left wing for the Red Bulls, at least make them pull it back and slow down to give Escobar time to recover. But Escobar stayed up high. It's a risky move, and as we see, it didn't work. Now, you continue it, and the ball's played into the middle, and you have players trying to close it down. Red Bulls with a simple 1-2, and I believe it's Barlow who plays it back. Escobar goes in for the tackle, and again, you're 40 yards from the Red Bulls' goal. You're in the middle of the attacking half of the field. And Escobar goes for the tackle, doesn't win it. It falls to Barlow, and it's a great decision from Tom Barlow. He doesn't try to do anything crazy with it. He's got numbers behind him, and he just leaves it back for Kaku. Escobar tries to close that down. Mo Adams tries to close that down, but in that part of the field, Red Bulls have a 3-on-2. Kaku doesn't need the 3-on-2 because he hits a ball that splits Adams, Escobar. Lennon was trying to get to Kaku. He couldn't come back to get there. and Hosetu, or is that Heineman? That's Hosetu. The ball gets by Meza, who was shaded all the way over to the right side of the field as the left center back because Escobar was gone and Miles Robinson is up against the touchline. That was the one, when I went back and looked at it, initially you see Meza because you're like, why is he so far over? Bello is not helping back at that point either because he had been up very high as Atlanta wants to get their wingbacks up high, but he didn't recognize things breaking down either with the two center backs who are your center of the three and your left center back all the way over on, from our view, the near side of the center circle. I mean, there's nothing in the middle of the field. Bello's not there either. He doesn't recognize it. Escobar was too aggressive. I don't know what Miles was trying to defend up against the touchline because it doesn't look like there's a player there, unless you're just trying to pinch them in, but that's very aggressive. And when everybody else is slid over, Meza slides over, and I don't know if he thought Bello had cover for him or not, or if he just got lost. It's a multiple-person breakdown. It's not one person. It's a multiple-player breakdown here. And then you give credit to Velo. Meza's trying to close him down. Meza turned and immediately yelled in Bello's direction. Don't know if he thought Bello should have been back by that point. That's why he was aggressively slid over. I'm guessing from the reaction he did. It's not just Bello. It's not just Escobar. It's not just Meza. It's not just Robinson. It's that whole group because they didn't recognize the situation so quickly. And as we see with the Red Bulls, this wasn't from the press. This was from transition. And that's where they thrive. And that's where they were really dangerous in this match. Whenever they received the ball, they went to goal quickly. And Atlanta was too slow in those moments to recognize it. This was the glaring example of it, where you're caught with Escobar up high, Robinson too far to the right. I still am not being there hurts in a situation because you don't get the full field view, but I don't know what he is so far over to the right for unless you just think Kaku's going to dribble forward or they're going to try to play forward and you're trying to box them in. But he's almost up against the touchline. And Meza's left out to dry at that point because he's the only center back left. He's trying to cut the field off. It's a great ball from Kaku, but it shouldn't have been that easy. And you had a couple other breakdowns. Brad Gazan made 3 saves on the night. A couple of them were very good ones. The one on the Daniel Royer attempt where he timed his run perfectly to get in behind. That was it, though, for me, is in those early moments of the match, Atlanta United struggled on thinking quickly enough. I wasn't worried about the fitness. I think they showed as the night went on they were the better team in the second half. They were the fresher team at the end. They created opportunities all the way down to the end. Fitness wasn't an issue. Sharpness in the final third and the decision-making, just the mental side of that, at times wasn't there. I thought you saw a noticeable difference in the way Atlanta tried to deal with Red Bull's transition after the hydration break. Because that's when you saw Franco Escobar pick up a yellow for bringing a player down. He's not going to let him beat him, brings him down. Pity Martinez, same thing. Gets a yellow, brings a player down immediately. Would have liked to have seen some of those the other way later on, but that's just, it's part of the game. For whatever reason, Pity Martinez can't buy a yellow card on a defending player.
Yep.
But that happened in that 15, 20-minute sequence or so after the hydration break before halftime. Second half, Red Bulls started to sit deeper and deeper. They finished with a line of 5. And Atlanta had more and more of the ball and more of the opportunities, but you didn't do anything with them. So it took too long to get into the game mentally, and some bad decisions were made. Second half, you didn't have the sharpness in the final third where you needed it. And Manuel Castro had one great chance, one that I think was a little more difficult than is getting credit for. Adam John had a great chance that forced a great save. You had other moments where it felt like there should have been a little more from it. To look back at it and feel like this should have finished 1-1, I don't think that's out of line. You created 10 chances on the night. You had 14 shots. You had 4 of those on target. Red Bulls had 4 shots on target. It felt like a draw kind of match because of the way it started, but Atlanta couldn't find the goal to get there. And it was a frustrating night against a team that, look, the Red Bulls keep it simple. In a moment like this where you're coming back from a long break, they kept it simple and played to their identity, and it worked. And it absolutely worked. And they get the 3 points here, which is going to make this group a little complicated. Because, after we see Columbus wreck Cincinnati, you feel like that game, Columbus and Red Bulls, in the next round, I want to see what that turns into. I want to see if you get a draw there, if you get some points stolen by the Red Bulls, because I think Columbus is the better team, or you get an upset from the Red Bulls. And Atlanta's going to play Cincinnati earlier. Atlanta has to get 3 points here. 3 points can get you into the next round as one of the best third-place teams. You only lost 1-0. Goal differential's not a problem at all right now. But you need to get 3 points there because then you're going up against the team that has looked really good. Looked really good in their demolition of Cincinnati. Was that on Cincinnati being poor? Somewhat. Was Columbus really good? Yes. How good, I don't know yet. And I think we'll find out again in their match against the Red Bulls. So there's still tons to play for. I don't think it was a bad performance from Atlanta, but in the key moments of the match, the Red Bulls were better. And that's what decided it.
We've got folks who have thoughts about the match, and I'm going to the top of the order.
Do it.
And trying to see who was first in the barn here this morning. GTUTD.
Well, I'm sure there were some tweets from the weekend, too. Go find those later. But
yeah, I'll go find those. Yeah. This morning's stuff. GTUTD1 says Red Bull definitely wore down in the second half. Scoring first is so important against them, especially if it's a game Red Bulls have to win. When forced to, quote, play soccer, end quote, their wheels can come off quickly with their only direct style.
Yeah. I define it a little differently, and maybe it's just me. It's just the wording that I like to use. Direct, I generally look at that as aerial kind of stuff, like long balls played. I think the Red Bulls are a little more vertical in that, like the Kaku ball, for example. It's just no nonsense, immediately, first time, boom, split everybody and go to goal. I'm just being nitpicky about it. It's just terminology that I use. You look back at the Red Bulls record since they went to this style. They are now 71, 12, and 17 when scoring first, which is typical. I mean, they concede first. Last year they were 2, 10, and 3. Like, that's pretty typical. Maybe a little exaggerated because of the way the Red Bulls play. But you get that first goal, and especially you get it early like that, it gave them the opportunity to sit a little bit deeper in the second half and soak up more pressure and not burn themselves out. They didn't press all over the field. I think we have this idea that the Red Bulls are going to be exactly like they were in the past. I think Chris Armas is trying to change this up to where it's not 90 minutes pressing every game, no questions asked. I think he's trying to pick his spots more. You noticed it. Any ball that was played backwards, any ball on the back line that was played sideways. They also tried to press Miles Robinson anytime he had possession. That's when they triggered it. Any ball that went back to Gazan, they triggered and they stepped up high. Goal kicks, of course, if you were showing you were going to play it short, the Red Bulls were going to sit up there and take that away from you. That's normal. But they weren't pressing everything recklessly. Chris Armas has done a good job in starting to make that transition to where they're able to conserve energy at times. And that was always the knock. You would look at them and they'd win a supporter shield, but they'd be gassed by the end of that season. And this is common for teams that play a pressing style. You run out of gas late, and in a league with playoffs, you can't do that. So you've got to find your opportunities. You get an early goal, okay, let's sit a little bit more. They get into these midfield areas in the middle third, okay, let's step up and try to trap them up against the touchline. Outside of that, defend. And when you have the defenders that the Red Bulls have, you can do that. They were much better on the back line than I thought they were earlier in the season. Jason Pendant, good addition, big upgrade from Patrick Segrist in the first 2 games. Kyle Duncan was good defensively, not great. I thought George Bello gave him some trouble as the night went on. Amra Tarak was great. Tarak, I thought, was man of the match in Utah in week 2 for them when he played in place of Aaron Long. I wonder if he just beat Tim Parker out and got the start next to Aaron Long. The way he played, he shouldn't come off. He was good. He was really good. Aaron Long was about what you expect. He outran Franco Escobar on one break where it looked like Franco in about the 60th, 70th minute had a piano on his back. That was the only time it looked like there was a fitness issue. Red Bulls were really good defensively, and it wasn't strictly from the press, but transition. You can be a good transition team and not be an all-out pressing team. And I think they're finding a little bit more of that balance, at least from what we saw here. We'll have to see the rest of the tournament to see how well it sticks.
Jason Nix this morning says, I got to admit, I was very disappointed in the performance this weekend against Red Bulls. Incredibly sloppy in the first half, but even more concerning is the midfield, parenthesis, God, I miss Nagbe, close parenthesis, and a lack of scoring chances. Talk me down from the edge, please.
Dude, it's one game. And it was the first game back, and you were the better team. So there shouldn't be a ledge, first off. You're going to lose some games, especially in moments like this where you don't have Joseph Martinez. You got 2 players making their first start for you ever. You've got George Bello making his first start in a long time. And you haven't played a match since the Estadio Azteca 4 months ago. It showed. It didn't look sharp. It looked sloppy at times. I think the sloppy conversation is a little overrated. When you look at the overall numbers, the passing was over 80% in the first half, and it was 83% for the game. It might be one of the best ever passing percentage numbers against the Red Bulls. They only passed at 60%. So you were disrupting them too, and they also will go for that vertical or direct ball, and that's a lower percentage. But you weren't disrupted too much. I liked Mo Adams' game. I thought Mo was very good. I thought Heinemann was a little too anonymous at times. Didn't play as well as he did earlier in the season. Lorenowitz came on and was good and lively and allowed Adams a little more freedom to step up higher when he was there. And when it was Remedi, I think Eric just struggled to get into the flow of the game a little bit by the time he came on. I don't think the Nagbe issue was really it because you weren't getting turned over a ton. You know, looking back at the numbers, and it's about how I remembered it, dispossessed 6 times. So Nagbe would allow you to break a press. That was part of the idea of what Darlington Nagbe brought. And he could get you out of trouble in spots. That wasn't the issue in this match. It wasn't. The goal didn't come from a press and a turnover. It came from the Red Bulls playing up the line from their own corner and not recognizing how things were breaking down. That wasn't a pressing situation. Nagbe wouldn't have had anything to do with that. The midfield, didn't have as much to do with that. I looked more at the back line on the issues. Could the midfield have handled it a little bit differently? I guess. Some more of the back line, because that ball from Kaku shouldn't put Velo in alone. And you can see the Meza look at Bello like something broke down there. That's the issue. So there shouldn't be a ledge because you saw, I think, good soccer from Atlanta United. You saw chances created from Atlanta United. You needed better finishing, and you needed to be locked in and ready to go early, mentally, and those things are tough when you haven't played in 4 months. You can train and train and train, but those moments ended up being what cost you. And that was the night for me. That was it. I think Atlanta was the better team. I don't think it's crazy to say that. I don't think it's looking through rose-colored glasses to say that, but they didn't get the result because in those key moments in the match, that's when the Red Bulls were better. Course of play, Atlanta was the better team. Key moments, the Red Bulls won them. They won them with the big save late. They won it with the ball from Kaku to Velo. They nearly won another big moment with the play to Royer where he was saved at the near post by Gazan. The key moments on the Atlanta side, they lost those except for the save from Gazan. They didn't convert on the ball from Adams to Castro that should have been put on goal at a minimum. The one from Lennon to Castro was a little behind him, but that could have been put on goal as well. And the Adam John one's just a good save from Jensen. So that's where you're at. It can be better. It needs to be better to get results in this tournament, but there shouldn't be a ledge right now as John is stuck and fading, and I don't know what's going on with John's internet connection. Typical, though. We're used to this sort of thing. We will try to get through it, so bear with us. There, he's back. All right. No ledge. It's okay. It'll be all right, but they have to be better in those key moments against Cincinnati and against Columbus to get out of the group and continue playing in the knockout round.
Michael Head this morning says he was going to start ranting on why the squad will not come up with an effective plan to combat the Red Bulls press. Instead, I will just say that I'm glad there was an Atlanta United match and just hope for a W on Thursday.
I still want to ask people to show where the Red Bulls press won this game for them. It didn't. It wasn't the issue. The issue was transition, which is a different thing altogether. The transition that the Red Bulls thrive in was shown on the goal because it was fast. It was a ball played right up the line on the left side of the field. Quick little 1-2. You try to win the tackle there from Escobar. It falls to Barlow, which is kind of fluky. If Escobar wins that tackle, nothing happens. But it falls to Barlow, and that's where you want to pick up the transition. 50-50 ball, lucky bounce, falls to Tom Barlow. One pass, back to Kaku, one ball forward to Velo, you're in. That's it. That's not pressing. That's transition. The Red Bulls press did not keep Atlanta from doing what they wanted to do. It didn't. You had chances created, you had the ball, you completed your passes. The press wasn't the issue. You weren't good enough in the transition moments when you needed to be, and you didn't convert your chances. It's honestly that simple, in my opinion. The back line was not in sync early, had some breakdowns in other points of the match, but it was not in sync early at all, and you didn't convert your chances. That's it.
Shiva this morning was not a big fan of our lineup. Too many new faces inserted at the same time. Maybe we should have picked up where we left off in the regular season. I'm mainly talking of our midfield and front three, but overall not a bad game. Red Bulls are who they are. For us, we can only get better.
Don't know what you could have done because no Joseph. Barco wasn't 90 minutes fit, and assuming when he came in, it meant he was about 30 minutes fit, so you can't start him if he's going to only give you 30. So that takes two out. That brings on Josetu and Castro. The only other one from what you would think the starting lineup would be when everybody's healthy is Mo Adams in for Eric Remedi, which I'm not all that surprised by. And I don't think it was a problem. I really don't. The back line that started is the back line that you want to start. That is the back line that was intended to start the season. Now, if you wanted to leave somebody out because Anton Walks, for example, had played every minute up to this point because of injuries, if you wanted to play him, who would you have taken off? I don't think it's an easy answer. And Bello on the left side instead of Mulroney. I think Bello showed he deserved the start and he lived up to it. So the lineup I don't have an issue with. Barco not being able to go 90 hurt you a lot. Because I thought they got much better when he came on. He helped free Pitty up a little bit more from picking the ball up so deep. You don't want Pitty's touches in your defensive half. You want his touches, around the final third. Barco started dropping deeper and being that point of bringing the ball forward. I thought it was better with Adam John in because it just gave you a very simple way to attack. And if you want to look back at lineup and a choice that maybe backfired, is that one. I think in a night like this where you haven't played, the Red Bulls' simplicity helped them a lot. Maybe it would have been better if you played a simple kind of setup with a traditional number 9 and Adam John and either Josetu or Castro with Pity Martinez in that midfield behind him, instead of, like we saw at times in the first half, where the play builds up, but you didn't have that focal point, that spearhead to the attack. You didn't have that player there because Josetu's not naturally that player. Castro's not naturally that player. Pity's not naturally that player. So it was kind of waiting for somebody to step into that spot on the field to be able to attack. It was better in the second half, but it was best with Adam John in. And we'll be curious to see if he gets to start on Thursday because of that.
Ricky Ricardo is wondering what it will take to finally beat Red Bulls. They are the monkey on our back. Second, what has to change against Cincinnati for us to get full points?
With Red Bulls, you just have to be sharp. You just have to be sharp because they do not complicate things. And they thrive in the transition moments. And, yeah, sometimes they create those transition moments from pressing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying their press doesn't matter anymore. It just wasn't the issue in this game. It was one bad defensive transition for Atlanta, one great attacking transition with 2 touches from the Red Bulls, 2 passes anyway, 2 one-touch passes. And that was mostly it because you created the chances to get a result. You just weren't sharp enough to finish it off. So you just have to be sharp. The Red Bulls know who they are. And what I'm really curious to see, because I did not see it in week 2, I was not impressed with their result at RSL. I thought they played outside of who we think they are. I thought Patrick Seegers really struggled. But now with Pundant, you also have Kyle Duncan with a little bit of experience now. You have Amro Tarek, who is more mobile than Tim Parker and might be the better option at this point, which is kind of crazy how Parker's stock might have fallen a little bit. And if you have an engaged Kaku and you have Florian Velo to take some of that pressure off, this is an interesting team. I still don't think talent-wise they're a playoff team in the East, but they know who they are. They don't make things complicated, and if they add some wrinkles to where they're not as predictable, this team could be a problem. They could. And Chris Armas, you have to give him a ton of credit because they came in and got the job done, and they did it a little differently than we're used to seeing. It didn't feel as frantic as a Red Bulls match typically does. And that's a credit to them. If they start winning matches like that, then, yeah, you got to look out for them.
Stizzle on an overreaction Monday. Atlanta United's backs are quickly against the wall with the loss and how solid Columbus looks. Gazan kept the Red Bulls game from being 3 or 4. I'm hoping to see Remedi start and Escobar to bounce back.
Let's not exaggerate here. Brad Gazan made a couple of big saves, but the Red Bulls only had 4 shots on target. They only had 6 shots on the night. So you could also say that Manuel Castro's poor finishing kept it from being something the other way. So it didn't feel like a game that the Red Bulls were 4-0 or 3-0 better. You can, yes, if Brad doesn't make a save, then the ball's in the back of the net. Well, if Jensen doesn't make that save late, then the ball's in the back of the net, and Adam John gets a goal. If Manuel Castro, which these shots did not end up on target, but if he puts them on target, then we're having a different conversation. It didn't feel like a 3 or 4-0 game at all. It didn't feel like a game where Atlanta was under tons of pressure and Brad Gazan had to stand on his head to keep Atlanta in it. He made saves to keep Atlanta in the match. That's a different conversation. It felt like a 1-1 game to me. It did. And Atlanta didn't find the one. I don't think there were a whole lot of other goals in it for the Red Bulls. It just now, if it gets to 1-1 early, does it change? Do they push forward a little bit more? We won't know. That's the thing. But it felt like an even game to me. I think Atlanta was the better team, but it didn't feel 3 or 4-0 at all to me. Brad made a couple of big saves, but that's different than saying the Red Bulls should have thrashed Atlanta, because that wasn't the case.
Dan Murphy's in this afternoon as we transitioned
What's up,
over.
Dan?
Lots to unpack about the game Saturday, but thought I'd be happier to see them back. It's the first game, so time will help. Man of the match was, I don't know, because I can't read the numbers. Darren, we can only watch on TV now, so put on a black outline. Man of the match, Gazan, #Overreaction Monday.
You could have given it to Pity Martinez. We gave it to Gazan because of the saves, but I lobbied for Pity Martinez. I thought he was excellent in this match and worked really hard in it. I'd love the black outline. I don't think that's a Darren thing. That's an Adidas thing on the numbering, because they're not doing that anywhere. It was worse in this one, I think, because of the lighting. It's not a stadium. The lights are lower than they normally would be. It showed. You just got, just a blinding thing on the back of Atlanta players. You couldn't really make out numbers very well. And it was a little tough with some of the angles to tell exactly who was who in some moments. But you pick things out. I mean, for me, I'm looking at things like the color of the boots. I'm looking at hairstyles. I'm looking at how they play. Pity Martinez, Josetu, and Castro from a distance and without being able to see numbers can blend together. But you see Pity step to the left foot, it's Pity. Stuff like that you start to pick out. So I'd love the black outline, but let's start lobbying Adidas on that one.
David at NotBabyFarkMCG, which
What's up,
I
David?
still imagine has nothing to do with the Melbourne Cricket Ground.
Nah, never.
Says he'd like to see more minutes from John. I feel he's impacted the game when put in, showing experience with positioning and utilizes his height, but who he replaces in the lineup is a big question. Maybe him at striker in a 4-3-3 with Barco at left wing, Castro right, and Pity as your central attacking mid.
Maybe. I don't know if you need to change out of the 3-4-3 because of this. Because if you do that, you're creating a whole lot of other questions. Okay, if you're going to go 4-3-3 to get Adam John, and you can bring him into this, and I think it's fine, as we saw. But let's say you think it's better in a 4-3-3. What's your back line? Is it just sliding Escobar over to right back, Robinson and Meza, and Bello or Mulroney or Castillo on the left, or Brooks Lennon on the left? Because where does he fit in at that point? I thought Brooks was very good in this match. That's the thing about a team like Atlanta United, is you've got choices and you've got competition for spots, and that means players are held accountable. That's good. So in this one, for example, if you were expecting Manuel Castro to be a player who, challenged the other team, his movement was good. He was getting into the right spots, but he didn't finish. If you're going to be up top, you have to finish. Does that mean now Adam John comes in for Castro and John goes up top? Barco would likely replace Josetu in this setup, although Josetu could drop deeper, which means then you have a question about Adams and Heinemann and Remedi and Larinowitz. You got questions everywhere on the field. That's good, but that's what makes it a little complicated. I don't think you need to change the shape. The shape was not the issue for me at all in this match. I want to see how this shape works against Columbus, which plays a traditional 4-2-3-1. I think there's some spots where if Atlanta is playing with sharpness, with rhythm, I like what that box in midfield with, for this night, it was Adams and Heinemann and Pity and sometimes Josetu, sometimes Castro. Later it was Barco, and who you would hope is starting by game 3 and fully fit. I want to see what that group of 4 does against Artur, Nagbe, and Zelarayan, a group of 3. I like that setup. I think Atlanta can control that portion of the field. Okay, then how does the rest of the game play out? So the 3-4-3 wasn't the issue for me. I don't think you have to go 4-3-3 to get Adam John on. I'm with you. I think this was his best performance in an Atlanta shirt. I think it would not be a surprise to see him start on Thursday because of the performance and because of how much he simplifies the game in the final third.
David follows it up by saying, I think we'll see improvement from Castro, finishing clearly a little off, but seems like he was at least finding the right spots for good chances.
Movement was good. I liked what he brought to the table. He was ambitious. I liked the way he played. I liked the work rate. The quality wasn't there on this night. And ultimately, that's what attacking players are going to be decided by. You know, we saw it all last season with Pity Martinez early when he wasn't scoring goals and he wasn't getting enough assists for whatever, people that had whatever number in mind. And it was, Pity. When you're in those roles, that's the expectation. And it has to be for Castro. It has to be for Rossetto in these moments. And they were good. They weren't as good as they needed to be. And they weren't good enough to get a result for Atlanta in this match.
Taka's in this morning. He says, I'm at the point where I want us to play differently against Red Bulls. 0-5-2 with the face-palming emoji. He says, maybe it's time to adopt a counter-attacking style for that match. Trying to play 1,000 passes to goal is exactly what they want us to do.
Tafka, I think there's a lot of things that are mixed up in that. Not from you saying that you're wrong. I'm saying that there's a lot of elements to that aren't necessarily clicking. This game, you played the way you want to play against the Red Bulls, and you were not disrupted from doing it. You look back at the regular season game at Red Bull Arena in 2018, late, where you came in and you were determined to play out of the back and play your game, and you were disrupted from it. The game at Mercedes-Benz in 2018, you were disrupted from playing your game. The game up there late in 2017 was a scoreless draw. It kind of canceled each other out. The game up there last year, after they got a red card, they sat back and they went for more of a counterattack than to play a pressing style, so you kind of have to throw that one out. The Red Bulls played the playoff match here differently. We know that. They tried to sit back more, and it cost them. The game up there last year was the red card. The game here last year was chaos, but again, they killed you in transition. I don't think there was anything wrong about the way you played on this night, because your passing style, it created the chances you needed. You created 10. You got 4 on target. You had some good chances that should have been on target. You did everything you need to do to get a result. You weren't good enough on the night. It wasn't the style for me. And Red Bulls didn't disrupt you at all, so you didn't have to change. So I don't think it's that. I don't think it was that in this one, at least. I think in this one, you did everything you wanted to do. You started slowly. You started in a very disconnected way, in a disorganized way. You got punished for it, and you did everything to get a goal on the other side of that. You didn't put the ball in the back of the net. And this is one of those glaring ones where you feel like, yeah, if Joseph Martinez was in this team, you would have at minimum had a draw. But he's not, and it showed. I keep coming back to Adam John, though. I really was impressed with how the team looked when he came on. And I think it's just down to that simplicity. Maybe that gets to a little bit of what Tafka is saying about the passes around the final third. I don't think it was a night that wasn't successful because you created chances, but Adam John gives you the ability, if the Red Bulls are disrupting you, to play direct and to play over the top. You didn't really need to, and even the times where you had long passes in this one, I had to go back and look at it because I thought I saw somebody talk about like Atlanta was just launching a bunch of long balls, and they had long passes. Yeah. But they completed them. I mean, and most of them were diagonals, or most of them were big switches. I mean, Escobar completed 11 of 14, which is a huge completion percentage on long balls. We're talking about passes over 30 yards. It can be on the ground, it can be in the air, but it's an over 30-yard ball. You don't normally see that kind of accuracy. He completed 11 of 14. Meza completed 7 of 12. Miles Robinson completed 6 of 8. Hyndman completed 6 of 7. Brad Gazan was 2 of 7, which is a little low. Mo Adams was 3 of 7. one a little bit better from Mo in that. Pitti was 3 of 5. Brooks Lennon was 3 of 4. Jeff Lorenowitz, when he came on, was 4 of 4. Remedi was 2 of 3. You were completing your long balls. Barco was 2 of 2. You completed more long passes in this match against the Red Bulls than I think they ever have. So I think they did some things differently. I don't think it was style. I think it was quality. I think it just came down to quality in this one. And, you know, does the 45-minute delay throw you off at the beginning and get you disconnected? It doesn't help, but you can't blame it on that because both teams had it. It's a lot more of just the fact you haven't played a match competitively in 4 months. And in the moment where you needed to be switched on and not get caught the way you didn't. And they won the moment. They didn't win all the moments in the match, but they won that one, and you did not win your opportunities to equalize.
Bartimus Prime has 2 questions in his first thoughts this morning. You've answered the first one. Why couldn't Atlanta find a goal against a not vintage Red Bulls team? So his second question, are we cursed on an overreaction Monday using the hashtag? He says, are we cursed to never beat them in the regular season, or was it an oversight by the front office to not sign or trade for an actual MLS striker?
You really haven't had time. I don't know if you can call it an oversight when you have a global pandemic breakout. I mean, there's only so much you can do when the bottom falls out like that. You had the Joseph injury happen, and maybe 9 to 10 days, I think it was 10 days after it was announced that he was going to have surgery, that the season was stopped. And I don't think anybody was selling at that point or trading, or there wasn't anybody in MLS. There just wasn't really anything you could do. And now, I mean, you guys have seen the videos too. Joseph is a beast working out right now. I don't think that means he's ready to play in a month, but I think it looks a whole lot more likely you see him before the end of the season because of where he is in his rehabilitation, which would slow you down from going to make a panic move. You've got options. You just haven't had the best scenario to discover the best options. And that's what I come back to with it. Right now, I think the Red Bulls thing is just in everybody's head. Like, I think you were the better team in this one, but it's just this thing that happens sometimes with a team that you play. They're your bogey team. And when you give up that goal early, I'm sure it got in Atlanta United players' heads. I think they shook it out quick, and second half, dominant, but nothing to show for it. And you just don't get results that way. You have to have the final product. You know, it's not overly simplifying the game. It's just the facts. You know, you get those chances, you have to finish them. And they were there. It wasn't a game where you had 4 chances created. You had 10. Normally, you get 10 chances created, you're going to get a goal out of it. It's that simple. And you didn't here. And that's not good enough. Hold Twitter for a minute, because we got a bunch on Twitch, and I don't want to get completely out of whack.
Go for it.
Mrs. Claus, what's up? Synced Jason and Mike on Saturday night. Thank you. Y'all are awesome. So much better than broadcast. I didn't hear it, so I couldn't tell you. We're all guessing. I think the biggest thing is just we have a more intimate knowledge of one of the teams, and that helps. It's hard to do. National broadcasts are a whole different animal. National broadcast not there, and when you don't have your normal prep and it's not the team you see over and over again, it's really difficult. So I have a lot of sympathy for all the national broadcasters who are calling games like this. I mean, I can watch Atlanta United, and they could be playing in white T-shirts, which it looked like sometimes in this one, and I could pretty quickly tell you who's doing what and why they did it and what they've done in the past, because that's what I do. That's the team that I call all the time. And these guys can't do that because they're calling different teams all the time. I mean, John and Stu did 2 games on Saturday night. So it's tough. It's really difficult. It's just different. A local call has a different feel, and I like a good local call when it's the style that I enjoy. I listened to the first half of Minnesota and Sporting last night because it was Callum and Kendra, who normally do TV for Minnesota. They were on radio for Minnesota last night. I listened to the first half of that, and it was good. It was really good. It was fun to hear about Minnesota. I wanted to hear what they thought about Ikopara being out, how they would handle, especially Maria being out. I wanted to get a feel for Minnesota from listening to that. And, that's what local calls do. So it's almost two different things. And you guys are, most of you, not our friends from Kansas City and our friends from Philadelphia and others who listen, but most of you are looking for the Atlanta United perspective. So we're going to give you that more than a national call would. Atlanta Phoenix. Felt like we were trying to do too much in the first half against Red Bulls. We were chaotic in the final third, not in a good way. Second half was much better, seemed more in control, couldn't get a goal. Gah. Yeah, I might have said gah on the broadcast at one point. That was what it felt like. That's a really good, paragraph about how it felt. It was chaotic early. Expected. It's first game in a while. It's chaotic defensively, too. Second half was really good. Second half, I don't know, 6 times out of 8, 7 times out of 9, you play that second half, you get a goal to show for it, and you create those chances. Barco not being able to go longer was maybe the biggest miss here, because I think if you had him longer, you would have found a goal. I thought the game changed with him. I really did. Jason Nixon, he's been back and forth on different outlets. Seemed far too easy for Red Bulls to cut through an entire team with 1 or 2 passes, no cohesion in defense. Yeah, we went through it. It's that no communication, and it's at a moment where, it's 1 or 2 passes, and that's what the Red Bulls do. They're comfortable doing that. Meza Bello not on the same page. Meza Robinson not on the same page. Probably Robinson Escobar not on the same page in that moment, and you have that many pages being off, it falls apart. Mr. Fantastic. I think the refs look at Pitti and Barco as players who go down way too easily. But here's my frustration, and Mr. Fantastic, you might be right. I don't think that's fair either. I want attacking players who are going to get kicked more than most. I want them to be protected. I would much rather see a referee be overprotective of our most talented players than have this idea that they go down too easily. But in this match, they called 5 fouls. Pitti was fouled 5 times. That's high. Typically, and Ezequiel Barco's been fouled the most since 2017 on a per 90-minute basis. And his is like just over 3.5 per 90 minutes. Pitti was fouled 5 times. It was obvious it was a tactic. You have to show a yellow. There's just no way around it. And in a match where in the first half you showed yellows for that sequence, not even persistent infringement, but an intentional foul to break up the play. Escobar did it, dragged a guy down. It was a decent tackle. Maybe some of the Falcons' corners would have been impressed. Pitti went in strong after a giveaway, prevented a breakup. He got a yellow. When Pitti gets a yellow for that, and then you don't get a yellow on any of the 5 fouls on Pitti, and especially as they started to rack up late, it's too easy to defend because you just foul. You just foul. You know you can get away with it. You're going to give up a free kick, but you know you're not at risk of a second yellow. That's my element with it, is when you don't call it, okay, that's one thing. That can be a judgment call. This can come in. But when you're calling them and then not giving yellows, that's a different conversation. And I don't get it, because Alan Chapman's a referee, led the league out of regular referees last year in yellow cards. Didn't really want to give any yellows to the Red Bulls for things that Atlanta United got yellows for. So that was frustrating. Cassie said, I'd like to see highlights that include nice ball control, touches, and passing. We seem to not always appreciate some of what our players do, but you can't celebrate a loss. Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought the passing was good. I thought the control was good. I mean, I thought the middle third was pretty good in possession, and you got enough of the chances created, and you have talented players. You should be getting that, but you also should be getting more shots on goal, which goes back to Jason Nix's. 4 shots on goal, 70% possession. Absolutely. Should have had a couple more shots on goal out of the 14 shots in total. Castro, at least one of his should have been on goal. And there's a couple others that I think should have been on goal. So the 10 chances created is what I look at more than the shots on goal, because 4 shots on goal out of 10 chances created is a problem. You have to put more on goal when you're creating that many good chances. And it is overreaction Monday, absolutely. But that's what we do. We talk through these things. Domer said, was good to see when Larry ran somebody over. That's always fun. I like seeing Jeff Larentowicz run people over on a regular basis. Yes. Bernd Dursberger says, not sure Fernando Meza is cut out for playing such a high line. Good on the ball, but not even close to Parkey's spatial awareness. Didn't look good against Club America either. The Club America one's different because he didn't have Miles Robinson, and that's where I go back to it. As the game proceeded, I thought you saw why Meza was really important, why Escobar is really important in that back line. Go back towards the end. There were times when it was Robinson 1v1 with Barlow or White up top for the Red Bulls. Meza's pushed up as an extra central midfielder, and Escobar's pushed up as an extra central midfielder. Robinson's the one who's supposed to clean it up, and that Robinson's the one who gives you the ability to play that high line. That's why on that goal, it's shocking when you look back and see Miles Robinson on the touchline out of the play. And there wasn't a risk to be there. That was one of the surprising elements for me in it. He'll clean that stuff up. It's his first competitive match of the year, and that was part of the issue. Let's see here. How long did it take you to sync the radio call, John?
That's a loaded question.
Did it take you 10 minutes?
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Mrs. Claus said she got 10 minutes into the game and then synced it up. So, okay. It didn't take her 10 minutes. I think she would probably figure it out before you would.
Yes, I would agree to that. Yes, it took everyone far less time to figure out how to sync the match up than it did me. Guaranteed.
It's all good. Mrs. Claus also was all about Remedi over Adams. The thing is that's weird about this, the decision we can put to the side for a minute, because that's a different conversation. I thought Adams was good. I thought Adams on the night, Remedi came in a different moment, so it's a little hard to compare like for like. Remedi was fine. I thought Adams was good and earned the start, and I think showed that he had deserved it. I think Frank de Boer really likes Mo Adams. I think we've seen it. Last year, he was his trusted guy to come in late and see a game out. I think he has a lot of trust in him. I think Adams is better on the ball than he gets credit for. I think Remedi is still in some ways probably overcoming the poor finish to last season. And that's maybe where, when you look at the decision-making process, Frank might trust Adams more than Remedi because of the way they finished last year out and what he's seeing in training. Remedi has to continue when he gets opportunities he has to excel. He has to come in and elevate and change that perception. I thought Adams was really good, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of him. They're different players. I think Adams is better defensively. I think Remedi is a better ball winner. But Adams is better from a defensive positioning standpoint, in my opinion. On the ball, similar. Remedi might be a better passer, a little bit. Maybe it's just a little bit more of time that we've seen him with it. But Adams is not bad with the ball at all. I think they're different. They have different characteristics, but not that different. And Frank trusts Adams right now is what it comes down to. I think he's just earned that trust. More from Twitch, because you guys are talkative today. It's awesome.
Good.
Adam from 816. Can any team really be a favorite? So much parity, randomness, who's sharp on what day? In game ones of the group stage, yeah. I think by the time we get to game 3, we should see true favorites emerge. I think Kansas City will be better, although the Tim Melia red card really complicates it. Yeah. I hated that decision. And I know a lot of people out there were fine with the red card. I hated the call because I didn't feel like it was an obvious goal-scoring opportunity where that happened. I think so often we see in that moment when a goalkeeper comes out of the 18, makes a sliding challenge, misses the ball, brings the player down, that they're the last player. There was a defender who was in the goal. So when you look at it in terms of a normal dog-so situation and the goalkeeper's there, okay, the defender replaced the goalkeeper here. If you want to change the or grade the obvious factor a little bit because it's a defender, it can't use their hands as opposed to the goalkeeper, fine. The things you look at in that scenario to determine if it is dog-so, if it is red. Because dog-so takes you away from, was it studs up, was it serious foul play, was it violent conduct? None of those applied. Some people compared it to the Brad Gazan red card against Sporting Kansas City from 18. That one could have been a violent conduct because Brad came out studs up. Melia, I think he almost tried to tuck his leg back in to not commit the foul. So there's nothing in that about it. So you're going dog-so, and that's what it was written up as. That's what it was referred to as in the match report, which is not the referee report. Sometimes they get that wrong. But if we're going to go with dog-so, because I think that's the only thing you can go with, you're looking at this. The distance between the offense and the goal, and it's close, so check. General direction of the play. Now, the attacker was going at an angle away from goal. His dribble on Melia slowed down that angle, but he's not going directly at goal. So maybe not a complete check there.
Yeah.
Likelihood of keeping or gaining control of the ball, pretty good. The ball was right there, so it wasn't one of those where he touched it 10 yards past and then tripped over the goalkeeper. So I'll give it that one. Location and number of defenders. There were other defenders coming down to close in as well. The direction and the number of defenders is the one that I'm because of the way Melia went in, I don't think it's a red. I didn't like the red there. I don't think it's a red. I don't like red carding goalkeepers in general. And if there's a question, I leaned in not throwing the red there. The whole thing about trying to play the ball, that has nothing to do with it because it's outside the 18. It's not deciding on, is it a dog-so red and a penalty. That had nothing to do with it. So the whole thing about playing the ball doesn't matter. It's those four things. Distance between the offense and the goal, general direction of the play, likelihood of keeping or gaining control of the ball, and location and number of defenders. 2 checks and 2 that could be checks, could not be checks. I wouldn't go red. Yeah. I think if it wasn't given a red, there wouldn't have been a huge outcry. Which is, kind of the way I look back at a lot of things. Like, if he'd called it the other way, would people have freaked out? Not too much.
No.
People didn't freak out enough about this one, though, so maybe I'm completely reading it wrong. But I didn't like it at the time. When we talk about favorites, and Adam's question, and he's truly engaged in this, because not having Melia for game 2,
Sanchez.
Not just this result, it hurts you for game 2. Now, Sanchez, I think, will be better from the start. He'll prepare for the match differently, all those things. But that hurts you. So that maybe changes the conversation about Kansas City. Toronto, I think, will bounce back. I think Greg Vanney might verbally backhand people after that match, and they'll be okay. They'll be all right. But, yeah, we're not going to know who the true favorites are until we get to Game 3 because you've got a lot of rust you're knocking off right now. I agree. Mrs. Claus said, I really think if Bello's shot had gone in, we would have won 3-1. I agree with that. I think the confidence would have changed. I completely agree with Martha on that one. And it was a great ball to play Bello in. Took it well. Beat Jensen with power. Didn't beat the crossbar. Happens. It's just one of those frustrating things. But, yeah, I think that would have opened it up a little bit. Because Red Bulls would have then taken more chances, and I think the way Atlanta was playing, they would have played through it. The press wasn't fearsome in this one, so I think they would have been okay. I did not see Burn, or I did not see what Burn's talking about here. I haven't seen it yet. Jordan Angeli and Joe Lowry's critique of the outside center backs occupying same spaces as our wing backs when in possession, nullifying the inherent advantage of the 3-4-3 should have given us in the outside channels. I'd have to go back and study it. It didn't register with me watching it. I think later in the match it might have, and that was more of when you're in desperation time trying to just get numbers forward and create overloads. It's all about how you use it. I don't know if I would say that it's a bad thing in general, especially with a player like Escobar, because you can create an overload with Escobar as a right center back joining with Brooks Lennon and creating a 2v1. But that also requires the understanding of Robinson and Meza to control the middle and shade over and handle that from a positional standpoint. It's not there yet. I'll have to go back and look at that, Burn. I think when it happened, at least in my mind, because I didn't notice it, when it happened, it was late when it was more of a desperate time anyway, and Meza and Escobar were taking more chances. Okay. Caught up for the most part on Twitch. What else do we have on Twitter since they've had a chance to catch up?
Oh, breaking news sounder, please.
Oh, well, again, just wave at me or yell something or smack something or clap or whatever you got to do as I scroll and find it. Breaking news from John Nelson.
From a friend of the network, Jonathan Tannewald, Washington Spirit and US WNT star Andy Sullivan. Injury yesterday was a torn meniscus in her left knee, leaving the bubble, returning to D.C. for surgery, rehabbing in Sacramento, expected to be out 3 to 6 months. There are quotes from her and Richie Burke, and game update, Rain and Portland are scoreless heading to the 15th minute.
Yeah, I was worried about that when you saw it. It looked awkward. Frustrating. Timeline-wise, though, because she's a player who's right on the edge of the national team pool, I don't think she's going to miss much with that. So the Olympics are still in play for Andy Sullivan. But it hurts Washington in this tournament. They got a big win on Sunday afternoon, a 1-0 win over Houston. Houston had won me over. I thought they were the number 2 team in the tournament. Nah, Washington has taken that spot now. Red Stars get a win last night. They needed it desperately. Casey Short gets the late goal. Needed that because the Red Stars had felt like a team that was just unable to find goals. So they're off the bottom of the table. Now, Portland could put them back there with a win. Portland has been the most disappointing team in the tournament for me. Red Stars at least felt like there was some promise at times. Portland is just... Rain has been up and down. Rain and Sky Blue are similar to me. They've been up and down, and I don't know what to expect with either one yet. So we'll see what this match turns into. 15th minute, scoreless. Portland does not want to play North Carolina in the quarterfinal game number 1, but that's how it would go if that match stays where it is.
Yep. Also on the Twitters, getting back into the timeline, Taka said, Brooks impressed me and had the okay emoji up. He said Castro did not. I know first game back, etc., but 3 chances in front of goal and none put on frame. Bello impressed me. Meza did not. Goose was amazing. We were lucky not to lose 3-0. Also unlucky not to draw or win.
Oh, yeah. Definitely the last part. Castro, I mean, that's accurate. That's completely accurate. I think there's a rush to judgment, which happens both ways. Anytime a new player, his name comes up, it's like future all-star Manuel Castro or Eric Lopez. And then if there's a bad game, it's like they need to be gone. And either way, relax.
Feeling in the extremes.
Yeah, it's not a fun place to be all the time. He was not good enough in front of goal. There's no question about it. I agree with Doug Robertson, though, and we talked about it on Southern Fried Soccer yesterday. His movement and getting in those positions was good. And you have to give him credit for that. But if you're going to play in that position, you've got to find the back of the net. You've got to force the goalkeeper to keep it out. You didn't do that, and that's a big negative on the day. When you're in an attacking role and goals are expected from you, your grading gets pretty simple. Did you score? Yes or no? Did you have chances to score? Yes or no? If you didn't score and you had good chances to score, it's a bad day at the office. And that's what it was for Manuel Castro. Meza wasn't as good as he was in the earlier part of the season. I thought Lennon and Bello did the job that they were called upon to do. And in general, I think Atlanta was good enough to get a result. I think they should have gotten a result. They didn't.
And Tafka with a screenshot at the 3:32 mark of the match says he's blaming Meza for the goal. He says
it's
he's
not
our
that simple. No, slow down. We talked through this, so we're not going to recycle it again. It's not that simple. And this was from before the conversation. That's why I don't want to go back to it and rehash what we already talked about. We went through it, and it is Bello, Meza, because Meza thought Bello was there to help him. He wasn't. It's Robinson, who is covering space. There's no impact of Robinson being up against the right touchline. And to a lesser extent, because I don't know what the tactic was, I don't know what the instruction was, Escobar, because I thought he was way too reckless and way too high up the pitch at that point and didn't recover. Although, if he wins that tackle that falls to Barlow, then you don't have the chance happen. So it's kind of a weird situation. But I don't put it all on Meza. It's Robinson, Meza, and Bello, and Escobar in my mind. And from looking back on it, that kind of reinforced it for me. Robinson's positioning is what surprised me the most. Because you initially see Meza, and you're like, wait a minute, what's he doing there? But when you see Robinson almost out of the shot, you see why Meza had slid over. It still wasn't right, but, otherwise, then what happens is where that ball would have not been to Velo. If Meza was further over to the left, it would have gone to Barlow and played him in. Meza was slid over in between, and then it was a good ball from Kaku to Velo. So it's the whole back line. I don't put it on one player.
Joey Logan's in this morning and says, this afternoon, silly me. Joey Logan says, the tactics and personnel are wrong for me. I'll leave it at that. I've said all my angry and frustrated tweets after the game. I think Atlanta United should have been a little more conservative with formation in a 4-4-2 or even a 4-5-1 after initially wanting to blitz the attack of 3-4-3 or 3-5-2.
It's not how Atlanta plays. It's not how they've ever played. I don't think they're generally going to come into games conservatively. The only time they came into matches conservatively was in the playoffs in 2018. That's it. A little bit early on with Frank de Boer's system, and I'll put that a little bit more to gaining familiarity than coming in and wanting to be conservative. The reason I disagree on this is because you were the better team. You outplayed the Red Bulls in the match. If you had been outplayed, I'd be more likely to agree, but I don't think being in a line of 4 would have changed anything about the early moment. If you were more conservative, it would have, but you wouldn't have created as many chances either if you were more conservative. So I don't think that was the issue. I really don't. I think the game plan was proven to be correct by being the better team. You weren't good enough in front of goal. If you convert one of those chances and you come out with a 1-1 draw, if you convert 2 of those 10 chances and you win, I don't think we're having that conversation. So I just don't think Atlanta generally is going to come in conservatively. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people like about the team. The Red Bulls style, they didn't need to be more conservative because they were the better team. And the Red Bulls didn't press as much as they ordinarily do. Didn't matter. Atlanta was the better team, had more of the ball, produced 10 chances, which normally gets you a goal. I don't want to keep hammering that home like it's that simple, but if you create 10 chances, you should expect a goal. The expected goals was really even in the match. It surprised me a little bit. I didn't think all of the Red Bulls chances were quite as high, but Expected goals are similar. It's an even kind of match. I would even shade it to Atlanta being the better team. You didn't convert. You just didn't convert.
Also on the board this morning, Katie Weaver. She asks, are tackles just more crunching because teams are not sharp, or are we just hearing more dramatic audio? Credit to DC for fighting back.
The latter. I mean, there's been a couple crunching tackles that maybe it is just down to not quite being as sharp, but yeah, you're hearing it differently now. That's been one of the big noticeable things for me with the way that they've mic'd the pitch is you're hearing tackles. The Felipe tackle this morning should have been a straight red.
Yeah.
Like, that was incredibly reckless. Just lunging studs up on the ankle. You got to go red there. Fotis Pizzacos. Come on, man. Like, that's a red. I'm trying to think of any others that were bad.
There was one in
calls
Orlando and Miami.
I didn't think it was a red because it wasn't studs up. You could hear it.
Yeah, that's what I was talking
Yeah,
about. You
yeah.
hear the tackle.
Yeah, I don't even know how much of a tackle that was. That was a wayward kick that was just reckless to the shin that you could hear. Yeah, it wasn't a red for me. It sounded like a red. It's not a red because of the way he went in. The Felipe one maybe didn't sound like a red. Should have been a red because of the way he went in. But yeah, you're just hearing more stuff right now. It's interesting. You're not hearing as much from the DC-Toronto game because they had to bleep everything because...
Okay.
I don't know who it was, but man,
okay.
Everybody was talking.
Okay. Now, I have, I guess this is a request.
Okay.
Can we, and we can do it one of two ways.
Okay.
We can either hopefully, and I'm giving ESPN benefit of the doubt because they're still trying to work things out with all of their, channels and getting everything from Orlando, calling matches from Bristol and all that kind of stuff. I'm hoping over time that their dump button can be separated from play-by-play in color.
Yes.
Somewhere in the audio booth, work your channels to where we can still hear play-by-play in color, and you can still do the dump button. I don't know where that cabling is, but if we could get to the point where we can separate those two, where we're not losing the broadcast at the same time somebody's saying a naughty word, and/or.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Can
there's an
and/or?
I like it.
Yeah, so and/or with this particular moment that we had today, which turned into like 38 moments of being dumped, because I think this game has the league lead in dump buttons that we've had so far.
Yeah.
Could the ESPN family of networks, and since there's like 27 or 28 ESPN channels that are out there, can we do it like Last Dance, where if you want to hear the broadcast with full audio, no dump button, put it over on like ESPN News or put it on the Plus or something, where if you want to hear all the naughty words, you have that option. That's what I would like. I'm just thinking out loud because of all of this stuff. It's like, can we please have a naughty option somewhere in the chain?
Mm-hmm. I agree. Let's hear it. If Bill Hamid is talking some epic amounts of smack, I want to hear it.
That. I'd love that.
I want to hear what he said to Ayo Akinola. I want to hear what Michael Bradley said back. Give me all of it. Yep. I want the uncensored cut.
Yes. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an uncensored channel on the ESPN family of networks where we can hear MLS's back. So
I'm down with that.
So that was what I was looking at this morning. It's just like, with all of these dumps, it's like I want to hear play-by-play in color. I want to hear him talk. But then every time you hit the dump button, you lose Adrian Healy and Ollie Moreno, and it's like, okay, they were saying something, and now they're not there, and now they're back, and now there's more dump buttons. But give me a channel with everything where I don't have to worry about having to concentrate through the dump button to figure out where they were in their sentence before it left us. You know what I'm saying?
Dynamite.
I know what you're saying. Chris Ashley wants me to cut something you said and use it on the soundboard, which I might have to do.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that. And just please. I want to hear, like I said, I want to hear Bill Hemme talking trash. I want to hear what Michael Bradley was saying in that scrum. I want that whole scrum that we saw after the match was over. I want to hear what they were jaw-jacking about. Michael Bradley doing his finger pointing with the index finger. He's going after somebody. I guess it was Hamid. I'm not really sure, but I'd like to know what was being said.
Oh, it was Hamid. Hamid went all the way to the bench to get away from everybody. Oh, Hamid started it. He did. That's what he does. You talk, and then you walk away, and you let everybody else fight it out. But, yeah, that's where it started. It's all good.
So that's just my wish for the remainder of MLS is back. Chris Hutchison's in this afternoon. He says Saturday was a good day for knocking off some rust and identifying some areas needing attention.
Yeah, and the biggest one is somebody to put the ball in the back of the net. You have somebody on your roster who's as good as it gets, and he's rehabbing a knee injury, and that's a problem. Somebody's got to step up. It's you don't want to get that simple with it because there's things that they can do better about the positioning, about the rotations, handling transitions, things like that. But yeah, that you have 2 chances converted out of 10, which isn't a crazy percentage, but you get that, well, then it's a 2-1 win.
Yes.
And the chances were there to be converted. So it should have been a result at a minimum. And I think it easily could have been an Atlanta win. But it wasn't because you did not look sharp enough in front of goal. And on one really bad moment and one other one that was pretty bad, the Royer chance was a good one. One really bad moment, multiple errors in concentration defensively. And you were punished by somebody who did put the ball in the back of the net. A good finish from Florian Velo. I want to touch on this before we move on. So some of the quotes from Frank de Boer, it was interesting to check out Michael Lewis in Front Row Soccer to see what he kind of pulled out of this match. So I pulled some of the quotes from de Boer's press conference, and he said, talking about Red Bulls, he said, they always play the same, very direct, a lot of long balls, and then win second balls. They have quality players like Kaku and Florian Velo who make the difference on the ball. They know exactly what they are going to do. It's always the same. So straightforward, winning those duels and second balls and play from there. That's a difficult tactic to play against. I thought Atlanta did pretty well in the duels in general, did pretty well with the second balls in general. Not in that moment that you were punished on. Frank went on to say, I think we did a lot of things, or a lot of times well, but we have to understand that we have to do better to win against this type of team. We had our chances, but it's a tough opponent for us. They play a style that's still suitable for us because we created room for ourselves. I think that's a good point to make. But when you are especially not really alert in some situations, they have a lot of men directly in front of our goalie. That's how that first play happened. There was a lack of alertness. That's a good way to put that too. They showed that 2 or 3 times, and suddenly we're in on our goalkeeper, and we have to understand that we need to do better in those situations. Mo Adams, what he said after the match, I think Red Bulls, of course, when they score that early in the game, they just try to get behind the ball and keep things compact and tight. So for us, it was about finding the pockets behind their front line to pick up the ball and be able to turn, but also being compact when we don't have possession to keep an eye on their attacking players like Kaku, who are able to thread the ball through. So just be cautious in transition and not get caught out. And they got that reminder on conceding in transition. And after that, it was better, but it only takes one. And it did. And that was all the Red Bulls needed.
Let's see. Matt Wagner, as I'm searching for a question that Michael Ruiz had, and I'm trying to search for his answer.
Michael Ruiz, come back.
Well, he wanted to know what the overnights were for the Atlanta United match. I know that the city of Atlanta was the top-rated market with a rating of about 3.5. Everyone else was under 2, and I was just trying to get the specific numbers.
Yeah.
But that was Michael's thought.
I looked at it. I remember seeing it yesterday, and it was the lowest of the major network programs overall, but in the 18 to 49 demographic, which is what advertisers are looking for, it was pretty even with everything else. And they're going to be happy about that number. The Atlanta number was really good. You'd like for the number in the New York metropolitan area to be better, but that's an issue the Red Bulls have. They're not connecting there. But the number in Atlanta was really good. So it was good. I mean, I think the overall number you'd like to be higher. the demographic number was good and what you need, because you need those advertisers. It's a weird thing. Like, it's not that you're better off to not have the 65 to 80-year-old audience here, but they don't help you as much in terms of selling ads as the 18 to 49. And that was where you were right there with every other thing on network TV that night. So, sorry, older folks, you're not as appealing to the advertisers. Sorry.
Yeah.
We will all be there one day.
Yes, and some of us are there now.
You're
Matt
not.
Wagner.
Shut up.
Matt Wagner, which formation and lineup would you like to see from Atlanta United against Cincinnati and against Columbus?
The unknown factor is fitness, because it's a somewhat quick turn. We don't know where everybody is. But if that's not in play and Barco's able to start, I'd keep the same shape. I would bring Barco and John on for Rossetto and Castro. And if you want to go fresh in this one, you could go Remedi over Adams. I'm okay either way there. It's a toss-up for me. And beyond that, I'm good. But if everybody's healthy, I would go Barco and John on for Rossetto and Castro. It simplifies the attack. You want Barco to start no matter what. There's no question about that. But it simplifies the attack as you're trying to get back into a rhythm. If you feel that Barco's inclusion helps you achieve that enough, and you can start Rossetto or Castro up top and get more out of it, fine. I think John came on and showed you that he can start and help you. And he started against Cincinnati before, and it went well. So I would go John and Barco on for Rossetto and Castro.
Katie Weaver is up for an uncensored version of MLS is Back. Another broadcast note. Are we going to have to do in-game coach interviews every game? That was extra awkward last night.
I don't like it. Poor Robin Frazier's doing the interview, and his team concedes a goal.
Goal scored.
I don't like that stuff at all. I don't want that at all. I get it, and I'm trying to think who it was who talked about it. I think it was Armis who talked about it, maybe in the build-up to it, that they'd been asked to do it, and he didn't want to do it. He doesn't like doing it. It's the last thing he wants to do when he's coaching a game, but he understands the moment, he understands the opportunity, and he agreed to do it because he thought it was good for the league, good for the team, etc. That's why it's going to get done. As a coach, you don't want to do it. I don't like it at all, so I wouldn't want to do it either, but yeah, I guess it can help. I'd be fine without it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I get why the networks want to do it, because because this is an abnormal situation. You want to try to add all kinds of different flavor and depth to the broadcast because there are no fans, and you're trying to add all these bells and whistles to try to add to the broadcast. But yeah, for me, that what you're seeing with the coaches, for me, is what the sideline reporters should be there for. And ESPN has Stefano Fusaro, who is there. If I was play-by-play in color, I would ask sideline, hey, what are you hearing on the benches? That for me is a sideline hit, although I understand wanting to have a coach because he's the head coach and you get the head coach to talk about it. But for me, that is a sideline hit element as opposed to introducing a coach who is trying to do his job at the moment. And so that's where I fall on that.
Yeah, I think if the access is granted, and I'm assuming that teams are being pretty open about these things.
Yeah.
I would rather have the sideline reporter relay what they overheard as opposed to having an interview with the coach who doesn't want to be there.
Yep.
Like, if you want to give the sideline reporter, somewhat close access on the hydration break and the coaching elements going on, and then they say, well, yeah, during that last opportunity, Frank de Boer was telling his team, don't let them break, foul if you have to, et cetera, et cetera. That'd be fine by me. I think you get more out of it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if the Spider Cam has a net mic on it, but that's what you have that camera that we saw over
Yep.
Frank last night,
Yep.
and Frank is gesticulating. That's my word of the afternoon. He is doing strategy, and he's using his hands, and he's being expressive. That kind of Nat sound, I'd love to hear if there was a chance to do that.
That'd be better than the interview, because the coach doesn't want to do it. You're going to get more out of the natural thing or relaying it from the sideline. I think that was about the transition moments. That's just my guess because of the fouls that happened immediately after that to break the play up. Chris Ashley says, so far, Matt Doyle, Lexi Lawless, Arlo White putting their stamp on Charlottetown FC as their pick for the MLS branding. Also, Don Garber seems to be a fan. Don't know if that's any indication, but Town has been my preferred choice of the names that have been out there. That's been mine, too. Kelsey said it doesn't look like it's as popular in Charlotte. I like it the best because it's a little different.
Yeah.
What were the other options that were on the board? Because they did a kind of cool tweet where they showed what
they eliminated.
They were eliminating one. They eliminated Charlotte Fortune, so they have Charlotte Town, Charlotte Monarchs, all with an FC at the end. Charlotte FC, Charlotte Crown, Charlotte Athletic, Charlotte Gliders, all Carolina. Charlotte Athletics, fine. I don't hate it. Sounds like a gym, but it's okay. Monarchs is fine. I'm okay with that. Real
Queen
Monarchs
City,
might be mad, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, Queen City, I get that.
I don't like Crown. I don't want Charlotte FC. I'd have to see the branding for Gliders. Maybe.
Is that a Wright Brothers reference?
I'm assuming. Maybe. I'd have to be sold on it. I'm not Carolina Gliders. Sorry, not Charlotte Gliders. So that adds a factor to it. And then all Carolina, I'm not completely against it, but I'm really skeptical. I think there's better choices. Charlottetown is the best one for me. And if I had to go with a second one, probably go with Monarchs.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would think that if you are David Tepper, you would want to do something that would make you the team of the footprint, and that's why I would think that something Carolina, but I understand Charlottetown as a part of the thought process.
Yeah, you can't go Carolina Town, so that wouldn't work, so that doesn't bring that in.
No.
If you go with one of the Carolinas ones, I'd lean more to Gliders, but Charlottetown is the winner in the clubhouse for me.
Yeah,
all right.
I got to go with Charlottetown.
Before we finish things off, you have to thank our good friend Steve Apolinski.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Go.
Apolinski and Associates, LLC. Proud supporters of everything, SDH Network and Soccer Down Here. Wrongful death and serious injury attorneys. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama. A couple different ways that if you are having to go down that road, unfortunately, a couple different ways that you can reach out to Steve. Go to the website, aa-legal.com. When you go to aa-legal.com, low right-hand corner, instant pop-up window, 24/7, 365. Just don't ask if they're wearing khakis. You can have a conversation right then and there with someone who has the pulse of Apolinski & Associates to get you in the door. You can also shoot Steve an email himself, steve at aa-legal.com. Give him a call at 404-377-9191 and let him know what is going on your mind. Recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine, one of the top 100 firms in the state of Georgia. Proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. It is Apolinski & Associates, LLC, aa-legal.com.
Not bad at all.
It's a Monday. Give it time. I got stuff on Twitter. What about you?
Let's finish off Twitch, at least until we come back at the very, very end.
Right.
Let's see. They're trying to figure out a reserve goalkeeper for Kansas City, and we're down to Graham Smith because he's 6'3", and he's got a good golf swing, according to Adam from 816.
Cool.
Yeah, could be good. 6'3" is always good in goal, so I'm down with that.
Can't teach height.
Kefsey said, haven't they said that the ESPN3 feed has an uncut version? I tried watching that for one of the games when I saw it. I did not hear any, what did you call it? Naughty options in that.
The naughty options.
I didn't hear a naughty option.
I think they have Spider Cam on ESPN.
Maybe
Plus.
That's where it's unedited. Because I just went to the ESPN, the Watch ESPN feed, and it was, maybe I just caught it at a non-juicy part of the match too. But
naughty part.
It. Yeah, maybe. Burned asked if I'd watched Atlanta United 2 back yet. I haven't. I will this week as we get ready for Atlanta United 2 on ESPN Plus on Saturday.
Memphis, 901 FC coming to town.
Burns said that they look pretty good, very resilient despite the red card. Very early red card, very good goal from Jackson Conway, very late winner for the Rowdies.
That was pretty, short version, Amir Bashti got a red for violent conduct pulling down Lewis Hilton just outside the box. In the 7th minute, I believe, Jackson Conway scored a couple minutes later. It was definitely up for goal of the week consideration, although I don't think he'll get it. The goal from New Mexico United, for me, would be goal of the week. Then there was a goal that happened that literally went through the chicken wing of Ben Lundgaard to tie it at 1 as he was guarding in the near post. Ball goes right in through it. Lucky M. Kasana got that in the 61st, and then a scrum in front in the 87th. And Tampa gets the 2-1 win, but a lot to be proud of and a lot to grow from for Stephen Glass and Atlanta United, too, as Memphis comes to town this weekend.
It's a really young group that Glassy's working with right now because you have no first-team players. They're all in Orlando, so those supplemental guys that usually give you a little bit of experience, give you a little bit of veteran leadership, didn't have it. So that's going to be a struggle early on, but that goal from Conway – keep an eye on Jackson Conway in the long term. He's got something special about him. Still got to continue to play. There's no rush. This is where you're in a great spot because you have a Joseph Martinez and you have an Adam John and a J.J. Williams and other options up top. You don't have to fast track him. He had an injury late last season, had an injury in preseason. It slowed him down a little bit, but he scores some spectacular goals. His academy time, this one, he's got something special about him. So keep the name in mind and keep watching his development because I think he keeps adding more layers to his game. That's been fun to watch that. Colonel's all on board with the Charlotte Town name. With me on, you don't need an FC. You don't need the club at the end. I'd rather see SC than FC, but if you just went Charlotte Town, I'm okay with
Charlotte Town.
If you go like Monarchs or Carolina Gliders, you definitely don't need the FC. There's just no need for that. Kefsey thinks some of the names are reminiscent of the Atlanta Bantams. Don't be talking about our chickens. I like the Bantams. It just
super Bantams.
It got better, but Bantams would have been kind of fun. I would have enjoyed it if we had a giant chicken in the crest.
A super bantam. Supersized chicken.
We have the big chicken in Marietta. We could have had a big bantam.
A bigger chicken.
Yes. Just a giant outline of a chicken head.
There you go.
That would have worked.
Let's see. Joe Bost says he'll take the L for us. He didn't wear his jersey, just an Atlanta United T-shirt.
Joe.
So, so Joe Boss is taking full responsibility for Atlanta United losing.
I'm changing the Kangol. I'm going to wear a different one on Thursday. So if my black Kangol had anything to do with it, I'll bring the red stripes back out for it and see if that helps.
He says, Castro, come on, man. Got to bury one.
Yeah.
He said he seemed invisible the whole match. Did I just not see something? Expected more from Husetti.
He was dropping really deep to try to help in some of the build-up play and dropping far out to the flanks. He was up against the touchline multiple times, and I didn't expect to see him in those roles as much as he was. Looking back at the numbers, 41 passes. He created 2 opportunities, which you have to give him credit there. I would have probably expected him to have more of the ball than 41 passes. He completed them at a good percentage. You know, I mean, the numbers are fine. The 2 chances created is good. Yeah, I would have thought a little bit more. I'd have to look. Let me see if I can pull this really quickly. WhoScored.com is always your friend for some of this stuff. And let's see where his passes came, if I can manipulate things quickly. We don't want to see New York's passes. Let's just see Mateus Rossetto's passes. So they're all over the place. I think the element that you don't like about where they are is the fact that I don't have it divided into thirds, but I'm going to eyeball it and say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 passes in the run of play, and he had 1 corner, were in the final third. Need more than that. And then if you want to divide the field vertically into thirds, there were a lot out wide, which if his passes were coming from out wide and Castro's passes are coming from out wide, nothing central, and Pitty's passes are central out right on the edge of the final third and then out wide a lot in the final third, that's where Adam John coming on was really important because there wasn't anything central in the final third. You needed more there, and there just wasn't enough. When you go back to the team as a whole and you start to look, I mean, passes around the 18, there's not many. There's really not that many. You need more than that. So when you look back at Rossetto, was he disappointing? I think where he was picking up the ball was maybe the more disappointing thing from him. If you go to touches for him, no touches inside the 18. You know, a handful, 5, 6, around the 18. You need more. You just need more. I mean, Castro had the 4 touches inside the 18, 2 shots. Pitty had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pitty had a lot of touches around the 18 and a few inside. Barco, with 25 touches, had 2 inside the 18 and 2 more on the edge. So you just need more in the final third. And Rossetto being a little anonymous is part of that.
Scoring update almost at the half. OL Reign and Portland Thorns are still scoreless. Quickly mopping up on Twitter. Ricky Ricardo is here for Athletic and Monarchs for Charlotte. I don't know if that's both of them at the same time or individually. Chris Hutchison has a question. The Kansas City reserve keeper. Does he have a mustache?
I don't know. Adam from 816, is it a thing? Do goalkeepers in Kansas City, especially if they're reserve goalkeepers, do they have to have a mustache? Is it just, you don't get to be in town if you don't have a mustache? I don't know.
Sanchez's stash was pretty strong. I give him full credit.
It was pretty good. Have to admit it.
All right. Anything else on Twitch since we're caught up on Twitter?
Yes, the Colonel says he should have worn a T-shirt. He got mustard on his King kit. Not good.
Oh.
Not good. You got to get that good spray to save it there, buddy. Good luck with that. Kefsey, which might be true. It's possible. Wardrobe mistakes were rampant on Saturday night. That could have been all of it. It could have been my hat. It could have been Joe Boss's shirt, the T-shirt. It could have been the Colonel getting mustard on the King kit. Bad juju all the way around. So we got to be better on Thursday, y'all.
Yeah, let's think about the wardrobe for Thursday. Got to go with the go-to outfit for Thursday.
Let's lock it in, guys. Let's be better here.
Lock it in.
We can do this. We can be better. Kefsey just don't know about this town thing. I'm with Jess. I think a town County, team, is that because those things exist? Charlotte purports to be a city. We got too many cities, though.
Yeah, the Queen City.
Too many cities. Martha comes back with, I wonder if town is connected to uptown, which is what they call their downtown. That's confusing. It should work for downtown.
So uptown is downtown even if you're the Queen City.
Yes. Uptown is downtown. I think didn't somebody post this? It might have been the Mint City guys saying that the first shopping mall in Charlotte was called Charlotte Town. So I don't know. We're gonna celebrate shopping malls. We might as well. I don't want Charlotte City, so I'd rather have town than city. But if the decision is we don't want it to be Charlotte Town because they think they're a city and we're just trying to be town because we're trying to be clever and different, or we're trying to name it after a shopping mall, then go with Monarchs, and I'm okay with that. And if you really want to be Carolina, I mean, call them the Carolina Monarchs. I don't have a problem with that either. Or the Gliders, maybe, but I need to see a logo because the Gliders could sell me if we see the crest. The branding could sell me with Gliders, but that's the one that would be, they'd have to really nail it for that to work for me.
Okay, your update. Charlottetown Mall.
Yep.
Right outside of what is now Charlotte City Center, the first enclosed shopping mall in the Southeast, opened October 28th, 1959.
Wow.
Lenox Square here at SDH HQ opened 2 months earlier, but it was an open-air mall at first.
Lenox, what you doing? Get it right. Come on.
Be a mall.
We let Charlotte have that. So they got the first shopping mall in the Southeast? Man.
The first enclosed shopping mall.
That's what a shopping mall is. Don't give me this open-air shopping mall nonsense.
So
they're fake malls.
And apparently one anchor store was Bon March, the department store chain based out of Asheville, North Carolina. Colonial Stores, Rose 5 and Dime, Eckerd Drugs, Milton's, a mostly one-story mall, although the Central Mall featured a second level with an auditorium and an S&W cafeteria.
Okay.
So there you go.
You got excited about the S&W cafeteria.
I mean, for me, that's like the old S&S cafeterias, like the Cocos and things like that you'd eat at when you were a kid. So S&W, that is truly old school, but of course we're talking about 1959 around Halloween in Charlotte, so that's what you got.
I take it back. That old demographic that doesn't help the advertisers, you might be in it.
What did I tell you? I told you I was already in.
Cafeterias.
Hey, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a Piccadilly buffet.
Oh, no. I need takes on this one, people.
A Morrison's or a Piccadilly?
Oh.
I mean, you got to go at the right time so you don't get stuck in line.
Man,
but the buffet and the desserts are amazing.
This is going to go really bad really fast.
Well, we are over the 2-hour mark, so we are in stoppage.
No, the reactions. I just, wow. When I was 10 years old, I liked Morrison's cafeteria. When I was 10. I'm not 10 anymore. The last time I went to Piccadilly, it was not a good experience. Much better options. So there's a reason why I don't think, does Piccadilly even exist anymore?
Yeah, I don't think that
a lot of them closed down.
Yeah. Piccadilly Cafe.
John's going to go figure out his lunch plans at Piccadilly since there's
because that would require me leaving Office HD, and I'm not going to do that considering that we are back here, at 7 o'clock tonight?
Yes, we will have SDH PM tonight. Jessica Charman will be hanging out with us at 7. You can watch on Twitch. You can listen on the app and on the website. And thank you, Vito. We did like this idea of doing the podcast on Twitch so you guys can see us and see our reactions. And it's another outlet. So it's been fun. And I love that the Twitch chat room just becomes a clubhouse of sorts for madness.
Yeah, same thing on Twitter. I mean, and it has been that way on Twitter ever since we've started doing the show over 3.5 years.
Twitch has got a different feel. Twitch gets a little more loose.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like it.
Keeping it loose. And by the way, Piccadillys do exist. There are 3. There are 3 Piccadilly in the Atlanta area, but the chain began in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with the first Piccadilly in 1944.
There's your history lesson on Piccadilly for the day.
Oh, and they purchased Morrison's. I didn't know
you got
this.
excited about that.
Well, but those are like the 2 competitors, Piccadilly and Morrison's, and then Piccadilly expanded when they purchased Morrison's back in 1998. So they merged, but yeah. So there's your restaurants over there.
Colonel and Ropes asking about uniforms for Thursday. I don't know yet. I was thrown for a loop in some of the things that I saw as we were getting ready for the pre and post game stuff. I thought they were going to be in stripes on the weekend, and I was wrong. So I think it's a safe bet to say stripes, but I don't know what the odds are, and I'm not recommending you put any juice boxes on it just yet. No. There wouldn't be a conflict with anything Cincinnati wanted to wear, so I think stripes is a safe option here. Let's see. Martha likes, I'm assuming it would be Real Carolina. We could just call them O Carolina, like the old song that Shaggy did a version of in the early 90s. Just OH Carolina. Just do that. Okay. Play the song as they walk out. Sure, be different. Okay. Kefsey likes the idea of calling them charlatans, which I'm down with.
Very nice.
I like it.
Very nice.
We have a mustache update from Adam Pulskamp, who could be the starter, potentially, or could be a player who was the positive test for Kansas City as people become investigative journalists. Pulskamp does not have a stash, so the backup goalkeeper mustache club for Kansas City does not exist. Eric Dick might, but he's with Phoenix, so if he has a mustache that's on his own, that's a Phoenix thing.
Well, but Jared is also reminding us that Petey Pablo is the only rapper who he recognizes for Charlotte.
He's not actually a Charlotte guy, I don't think. I think he was up north.
So you're saying he's a charlatan?
No, I'm saying he's not a charlatan. I'm saying you people are trying to make him a Charlotte guy, and he is from Snow Hill, North Carolina. He was born in Greenville, North Carolina. No, it's not up north. Snow Hill's out in Greene County to the east.
Yeah, Greenville is toward the Atlantic.
Okay, so yeah, Snow Hill, Greenville, same general area. Yeah, different county, but same general area. So, no, he's not a charlatan. He's not a Charlotte guy. So you can still use it, though, because it's awesome. That's what they should walk out to.
Ricky Ricardo says we are in stripes. Check the team header.
Okay, there you go. Cool. Done.
And Katie Weaver says it would be very on brand for Charlotte to be named after a mall, and direct quote, and O, period, no, period, Piccadilly, period, John, stop, period.
No, he's got some support. I'm not going to lie. Jason Nix is right on with the cafeteria meals. Also, like me, not sure the last time he rolled into one, but at least the idea of it didn't freak him out. So that's a step in the.
And Chris Hutchison remembers when Lenox Square was an open air mall.
Wow, I do not know those times. The first mall I ever went to was Southlake in Morrow, and I went to the Morrisons outside of the mall because that was where we would go after going to the mall. And we would, what did I usually get as a kid at Morrison's? Because I don't think I went there after I was in 6th grade. I think I'd usually go either chicken or meatloaf, and I always got the macaroni and cheese because it was really good.
Yes.
And
desserts.
I, as a kid, would try to get one less vegetable and get 2 desserts.
Yep. Lemon meringue pie and the banana pudding usually.
If my grades were good, I could get away with it. I'd always go for the Jell-O for one. That was easy. The Jell-O was fun.
Okay.
And sometimes I'd go with like the chocolate cake. That was pretty basic.
We're caught up on Twitter for quick topics. Anything else left on Twitch as everybody's conversing with each other on both Twitter and Twitch?
Yeah, everybody's thinking about all kinds of things. So on Twitch, to finish it off, ATLUTD Tom, I believe you are a newbie in Twitch. Thanks for hanging out, Tom. Was our attack struggling because of the Red Bull defense, lack of preseason games, or personnel? It's a good one. If I had to go multiple choice and pick one, I'd go lack of preseason games because I think it was the sharpness. Created chances, and you didn't finish them. And I'm going to put that down to the lack of preseason as opposed to the personnel because you had the opportunities. I think Manuel Castro can score goals. I don't think he was in any way sharp, and I don't think the Red Bulls' defense was that good. I don't. I think you created 10 chances you would expect to score. Let's see. Martha says the best cafeteria in Charlotte was the Morrison's in South Park Mall, so good times. Vito's working from home and consuming the podcast on Twitch. Likes it better than the other ways to consume the podcast. So, yeah, I'm glad it works. I mean, I was never a Twitch guy until we started messing around with it. And it's an easy setup. It's an easy system. Yeah. So I like it. I like the chat room.
Yeah, and I mean, let's see. So let's see if I can recall where we are these days. We're on Spreaker. We're on the app. Mm-hmm. So you can download the app, iOS and Android. Mm-hmm. Spreaker, all your other podcatchers. Mm-hmm. We
That's
are
to
on
listen later. Yes. We need to specify. Yes. To listen live, you can hang out on Twitch. You can download the app and listen on your device. Yes. You can listen live at soccerdownhere.net. And you can listen live at our Spreaker page, Spreaker.com/show/soccerdownhere. But that feeds into the website. So soccerdownhere.net, give us the clicks.
And if you are into late night listening and late night viewing and want to see this later, you can also go to Zingo TV. And through our friends at the Barn Burner Network, Channel 250, the Zingo TV app, which I have right here. See, Zingo TV right there.
Yes.
And you can watch us. We are their late night programming from 11 p.m. until we're done.
As the people on Zingo know, that's not live, though.
No.
Sorry to break the fourth wall, Zingo.
Completely and totally taped.
Unless John is doing a secret show that I don't know about.
No, I would have to know technology for that to happen.
Yeah, we took that away from you a while back.
You did. That is, and I am stipulating that was the right move.
I think so too.
Another developing story: Teal Bunbury has re-signed a long-term deal with New England.
Teal Bunbury is one of the most underrated players in Major League Soccer. I like Teal Bunbury. I always have liked Teal Bunbury. A lot of people like my Jell-O take. Jarrett agrees with me on a Jell-O food take. Jarrett usually doesn't like all my food takes. They're not as bad as John's, but Jarrett has some disagreements with some of my opinions. He likes the Jell-O.
Yeah, when he goes Jell-O for life and is so emphatic that it's in all caps and goes LYFE.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
For life.
Martha's on the Jell-O too. The cube Jell-O with the whipped cream. Absolutely. It's good stuff. I'm going to make some Jell-O this week because of this conversation.
See, there you go.
I haven't had Jell-O maybe since I was at Morrison's last time.
Yeah. Let's see. And once again, thanks to Chris Ashley for the new homage to the NWO. Yeah. So the SDH, if you want to get your gear, where do they get your gear?
Teespring.com/soccer-down-here, or follow the link from soccerdownhere.net. You can get the T-shirt in black, in gray, in red. You can get a sticker. You can get a long-sleeve T-shirt. You can get SDH a hoodie. You can get a tank top. And you can get a fanny pack if you want to be really like the NWO and wear an SDH fanny pack around town.
Be like Buff Bagwell and wear the leather skull cap with the SDH logo.
We don't have that, John. We don't have that. You're always wanting to go somewhere that is nothing to do with where we're at. We don't have leather skull caps. They don't have those on Teespring. There's not much of a market for leather skull caps.
Chris Hutchison asks, do you know what Jell-O is made from?
Special goodness? I don't know. Gelatin is involved. I know that much.
Well, it's like water and stuff.
Yes, to be accurate, it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to make some Jell-O this week, and I'll take a picture for everybody because I'm excited. I'll get some whipped cream, too, because Martha gave me that good idea. I like this. Kefsey goes with the Charlotte Carowinds. Let's just drop this biplane thing. First in flight is a fight unless MJ is the reason. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, Jarrett mentioned Carowinds FC as well.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going after shopping malls, we can go after theme parks too, I guess.
There you go.
Why not? Queen City FC, and Cincinnati didn't take it. That's Martha's suggestion. I like those kinds of things. I don't know if they play in the mainstream sports space.
Yeah.
You know, it was like Terminus here was something a lot of people really liked. I don't know if you'd get the buy-in from all of the new soccer fans with a name like that. Might be wrong, but I am always reminded, and I know we get kind of hung up on all the Uniteds and all the cities and all the FCs, but I'm always reminded by a conversation I had with a new soccer fan when the team name was announced, and he loved it, and he said it sounds like a soccer team. And he didn't like Silverbacks because he said that sounded like an arena football team, which it kind of does.
Yeah.
But he loved Atlanta United FC because it sounded like a soccer team. And sometimes we need to get out of our soccer bubble and think about what plays big. Queen City might work. I mean, you might be able to make that work, but because it's a big difference between Terminus as a name for Atlanta and Queen City as a name for Charlotte. Queen City is much more known and accepted, so maybe. I think Charlotte Monarchs or Carolina Monarchs gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you a mascot kind of name. It still works in terms of branding. You can do a lot of whatever branding you do with Queen City FC. I think it's if you don't feel like Charlotte Town is good enough to get that feeling of it sounds like a soccer team, which it's a little different. We haven't had a town in the United States at any high level with a soccer team, so maybe. But Charlotte Monarchs, I'm actually growing on me now. The more that we say it, the more that we talk about it. Either Carolina or Charlotte Monarchs, that might be the best option.
Let's see. Wrapping up a couple things. We got the League One
we're
playoff
really going to stop
final
in a minute, I promise.
Yeah, we're really going to stop here. 2:30 Eastern on the Plus. Oxford United and Wickham, your League One final to determine who goes up to the championship in the third playoff spot. And Joe Boss says, Jello is nasty, as is Piccadilly. Y'all both crazy.
Joe! Man. I haven't had Jello since I was a kid, so it might be nasty. But I'm going to find out because I decided to try to challenge one of my childhood opinions that was a negative opinion because for some reason I had this in my mind that I didn't like banana pudding. And I hadn't had banana pudding probably since I was a little kid. And one of our takeout days did barbecue, and they didn't have a whole lot of desserts. And I was like, I need something sweet. I want a dessert. And banana pudding was what they had. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. I'm going to give it another shot. And it was delicious. Fox Brothers is the best, though. Fox Brothers banana pudding is so far the leader in the clubhouse. But so I have fond memories of Jell-O, and I hope they hold up. I'm going to find out this week. Red Jell-O, some whipped cream. I'm going to be good. I'll try this.
There you go. All right, so we're back at 7, right?
7 o'clock for SDH PM. We will talk about Jason Nix's suggestion of more scarves and hats. We do have scarves and hats. If you don't have yours yet, we still have some. Shoot me a message. Shoot us a message at Soccer Down Here. Shoot us an email. Let us know. We can get you taken care of. I can get that shipped out to you. But, yeah, we have some left. We will be doing another scarf. We're almost out of the Holding Midfielders Appreciation Society scarves, so it's probably that time. So I'll go ahead and throw it out to you guys since y'all have been very vocal today. You got scarf ideas? Mm-hmm. Send them our way. Let's see what happens. Let's see what we get. We've already renamed Charlotte's MLS team, and I think we're good about that. So we've relived our childhood with Morrison's Cafeteria in Piccadilly. So yeah, if you guys have some scarf suggestions, things that need to be on a scarf from the show, let us know. You can let us know anywhere we are at. You can think about it and come back for the 7 o'clock show. and we'll be there for that. So thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out. That was a good overreaction Monday. The reactions were not too over. They were really good.
They were reactions.
They were reactions. They were
Reaction.
good. They were good.
Reaction.
They were well thought out. They were good observations. It was good conversation about it. What is becoming of an overreaction Monday? Usually we're all been out of shape. It was good.
React to me. Stockbridge. Conyers. Greenville. I want to hear from you. I should have done that at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, probably not. John's broken. It's time to go. We'll be back at 7 o'clock. Mucha platio.
Mucha platio.